UK nurse serial killer.
Soy Waldo Fernández, diputado local de Morena, Nuevo León, y en 2 años caminé más de 1000 kilómetros para llegar a tu hogar.
The nurse Lucy Letby has been found guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 6 others while they were in her care at a hospital in Cheshire, making the 33-year-old the UK's worst child killer in modern times. In a statement, the families of her victims said that they were heartbroken and that justice could not reduce.
Yo, a man's gotta step up, bro. We can't let women take, we can't let them be the best at anything, even child killing. Jesus Christ. The worst child killer in 30 years.
33-year-old, the UK's worst child killer in modern times.
Oh, modern times. What is modern times? What does that mean? 30 years?
Statement, the families of her victims said that they were heartbroken and that justice could not reduce the extreme hurt, anger and distress which they had experienced. Lucy Letby was also acquitted of 2 counts of attempted murder, and the jury were undecided on 6 charges of attempted murder.
Since cameras,
today,
I don't know what modern
ordered an independent
since records, since historical records.
This
I don't know.
shocking case. Our North of England correspondent Judith Moritz is here with me. And Judith, you've been.
I would have thought there was somebody that had killed more than 15 kids.
It's only now that the full scale of her crimes has become apparent.
It's a fetus,
yes,
as they would say.
Rita, that verdicts have been being delivered here at Manchester Crown Court over several hearings over the last 10 days. It was only today
Give her the
when
death
the
penalty.
jury indicated that they could go no further.
Death penalty.
That reporting...
Bro, she's 33 and she's killed 7 kids. She tried to kill 6 more. Death penalty. Like, she can't be fixed. This is a monster, dude. This is an actual monster. 33. It would be one thing if she was, I don't know, if she had just been a mother and went through a psychotic depressive episode, okay, that's one thing. 33 and you're killing babies. Nah, dude.
Restrictions were lifted and we are able now to report the full extent of what Lucy Letby has been found guilty of.
Baby killer.
That was an emotional moment in the courtroom.
She's a nurse, bro.
Number 7, particularly, you can't even imagine, for the families of those babies. Some of the jurors looked upset this afternoon, but conspicuous by her absence was Lucy Letby, who refused to come up from the cells. She wasn't in court. And it's been fast-moving ever since. The prosecution are considering a retrial on the undecided verdicts here. And there's been the announcement, as you say, of a government inquiry.
Dude, how did she think she could get away with it? Hospitals don't just lose children every day. Like, if the child is perfectly normal and then he dies or she dies, that's not normal. That is not normal. And then it happens in your care and all the children die in your care. You're not getting away with it at all. You could not. In fact, I'm surprised you got away with it 7 times. I'm surprised. Over how many years? Has she been doing this for 10 years, 15 years? You know, what's worse, the hospital helps cover it up. I mean, it makes sense. But if it was over 10 years, then okay, yeah, I understand, right? The hospital says, look, we thought the kid was fine and then the kid died. I don't know, you know? But, well, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
But
we'll have to
this
see.
was the moment the game was...
I would bet...
Oh, Lucy, is it? Yeah. Oh, my name.
I would bet it's 10 years of career.
Yeah, thank you.
She started at 23.
Behind the door of this ordinary suburban house, Britain's most prolific baby killer was finally arrested 3 years after her murder spree began.
3 years!
Take a seat in there for me, Lucy.
She killed 7 babies in 3 years!
Oh, right.
1 every 2 months!
She worked here on the neonatal unit at the counter.
Hold on, no. 3 years, I'm kind of retarded. That's 18. 1 every 5 months. 6 months. 4 months. Right, 4 months? 3, 5 months. 1 every 5 months. And you guys didn't know.
Of Chester Hospital, her role to care for the most premature and vulnerable infants. But that couldn't have been further
And she
from
tried every
crying,
2 to 3 months.
I've never heard
She
anything
felt
like
6
it
times.
since. It was screaming.
Mother of babies E and
It was
F.
screaming, and I was like,
Are they alive?
what's the matter with them?
Legally, we can't identify the families in this case, but their stories are
She lost 2
distressing.
children.
These are the parents of twin boys born prematurely in 2015. Their mum was taking milk to them when she heard one of her sons crying loudly.
He had blood round his mouth.
What? He had what?
And
Round his
Lucy
mouth?
was there, but faffing about, not blood round his...
Them when she heard one of her sons crying loudly.
He had blood round his
Blood round his mouth.
mouth. And Lucy was there,
And Lucy was there.
faffing about, not really.
But she was faffing about. Faffing about is being careless. Like, you know, this is faffing about, just wasting time. That's faffing about in English terms.
Not
Trust
doing
me, I know.
anything. Lucy said, oh, don't worry, the registrar was coming, and she told me to go back to the ward.
The baby's mum left him in this intensive care area and went to call her husband. They thought their son was in safe hands with Nurse Letby, but a short time later they were told he was dangerously ill, and they rushed back to find doctors trying to save
But the
him.
doctors are gonna
Taken
know,
in.
bro. The doctors are gonna know if he was given
We
some
were told
medicine.
to talk to him and held his hand. And then
No, he was gone.
the conversation with the consultant, and she said, we're going to stop. It's not helping. We want
He was gone.
him to die in your arms.
On the unit, there were typically up to 3 deaths a year. But in 2015, they had that number in the month of June alone. And the pattern continued, with babies dying or coming close to
3
death.
deaths a year.
The common factor? Lucy Letby. This staffing sheet shows she was the only employee who was
Every single time. How do you guys not realize something from this? How do you guys not? How do you guys not see, like, bro, let's see. The average is 3, right? Everyone has 3. You notice this? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 3 to like 5 is the average, right? Some shit like that. 4 to 5, let's say. This bitch had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. She had 5 times the average, bro. 5 times the average, bro. Dude, if somebody's 5 times the average, they are extremely far away from the mean. Like they are an outstanding individual.
present.
Bro, 5 times the average is unheard of, unseen, in pretty much everything.
Every time there was a suspicious
Like, the person
event.
doesn't exist. The person doesn't exist. That's how rare that is. So there's a thing in probability that's like I don't know if it's 1 sigma or 1 standard deviation or whatever, if you have like 90% of the people fall like plus minus 5, basically. If 5 is your average, 90% or like 80% of the population falls underneath plus 5 minus 5 in average. Like, this is how this shit works. And then the extra 20% falls underneath an extra 5. So 10 plus 10 minus 10. Boom. This bitch was plus another 5, plus another 5, plus another 5. If they were doing statistics of the hospital, they would literally erase her data point because she's an anomaly. Like, this is an anomaly that doesn't happen in statistics, in probability. Like, it's like some weird shit. You erase it, you erase the other one, and you keep the others. Like, that's how much of a freak this is. I don't know how the staff didn't do anything about it before it got to that bad. Dude, this is why statistics matters. If you guys had a statistician, he would have said, yo, this is concerning. This is not normal. If they had statisticians, they would have lost less kids. Like, I'm not kidding. A statistician, somebody that knows probability, statistics, would have been able to tell the hospital, yo, there's something here. There's something here.
Dr. Stephen Breary led the team of 7 consultants on the unit who shared joint concerns about Letby. He's now speaking publicly about their experience.
A person will have to be a don.
It's something that nobody really wants to consider. That
no, but you have to.
Staff
just
might be harming the babies.
That's why you need an autistic statistician. He doesn't give a fuck about the people. He doesn't even know the people, right? That's why you need that person. Doesn't even know the people. He doesn't even need to know their names. That's why you need that person, right? Who only sees the data. That's it. Doesn't see the people and says, yo, there's something here. This is not normal. This is like extremely not normal. And then it happens again. Boom, another mark. This person just moved from here to here. Yo, here. This person's killing people. Whatever this is killing people. You need a statistician, bro. You know what? You know what they should do? Statistics department should hire me to do their PR for them so that more people become statisticians. And so more people hire statisticians. Like, look, I'm being honest. I'm being 100% honest, bro. If the hospital had 1 statistician, this shit doesn't happen. This doesn't happen.
Things came to a head when 2 out of 3
you gotta have at least 1
triplets died within 24 hours of each other in June 2016. Afterwards, a meeting was held for staff.
Lucy Letby was there. She was sitting next to me. I spoke to her and said how tired and upset she must be after 2 days of this, and I hoped that she was going to have a restful weekend. And she turned to me and said, no, I'm back on shift tomorrow. The other staff were very traumatised by all of this. We were crumbling before your eyes almost, and she was quite happy and confident to come into work.
Lucy Letby was eventually moved to a clerical role. The
Bro,
doctors
not
kept
having a
trying to get
statistician
managers
lets the
to
got kids
investigate the
killed.
suspicious deaths and her connection to them.
But
They're
we
so
can
important,
now
dude.
reveal
They are
that
so
even
important.
though consultants here repeatedly made loud warnings to senior management,
Like, legitimately,
they say they were
when they go
ignored
to
and
recruit people
ultimately
for
told that if they
universities,
didn't stop
they should
raising
play this
questions about
case.
the nurse, there'd be
And
consequences.
they should say,
And
if
the
one of these
doctors say
people
that
was,
even after Lucy Letby came off duty on the neonatal unit, executives tried to draw a line.
It'll get more statisticians into it, because it's not just about numbers, it's about saving lives. It's about helping people.
The police became involved.
Through numbers.
After her arrest, officers found all sorts of items in her bedroom. Baby's medical records, her diary, and notes covered in Letby's scrawl, with phrases including,
I killed them.
I did this.
She is.
I did this. I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good. Angry being like them. I am horrible. I don't deserve mom and dad. And person, world is better without me. I am evil. I did this. Prechloropheniral, please help. Please help me. Please help me. Oh God.
A killer, and using her words, she is evil.
You've spent time interviewing her and watching her in court as well, giving
Yes.
evidence. What do you make of her?
I think she's very emotionless. She doesn't, because she doesn't respond
She's
to
not emotionless.
a
clearly.
typical human response
She's
that
a
I would have
psychopath.
expected.
Did you have any concerns?
She's a
that
full-on
there was
psychopath.
A rise in the mortality rate.
She's a full-on psychopath.
Yes.
And she knows that what she
There's
did is
no
wrong.
empathy or sympathy with what's gone
No,
on.
there would be
So
at the after.
I mean, there are
she
people
kills
who
him.
look at her and say, there's no way she can have done this. It's circumstantial
Those people are
evidence.
retarded.
She
Those
looks
people
as
are
though
retarded.
butter wouldn't melt.
it's an example
Those
to us
people are
all, really, of
fucking
not
simps.
judging a book by its cover.
He should have said, those people are fucking simps and they are disgusting. That's the truth. Yeah, death penalty.
We've got to accept, and
Death
understand
penalty.
the evidence in this case has been, I believe, significant, and has taken us to understand
very
that Lucy Letby is a
significant.
killer.
Very significant.
As the trial ended today,
25
Letby refused to come
suspicions.
into the courtroom. Prosecutors later reflecting on the scale of
something
her
there, bro.
deceit.
It's
In her hands, innocuous substances like air, milk, or medication like insulin would become lethal. She perverted her learning and weaponized her craft to inflict harm,
Jesus Christ.
grief, and death.
The nurse even wrote this sympathy card.
It's interesting how every serial killer only goes after weaker beings than them. They never go up against stronger things than them. It's always weaker. Always. Always. Men go for women, usually hookers, right? Usually younger or abandoned people, right? Women go for kids. Very rare they go for men. These people are not like hunters, because a hunter goes against a prey that, deserves, something. Like a deserving prey. An apex predator doesn't go for, a little chicken. You go for a bear, you go for a big thing. But these serial killers, they just go for everything that's weaker than them. They don't want to test themselves out. They don't want competition. They just want to kill. And they go for what's easier.
Card to the parents of one baby and searched for many of the other families on Facebook,
Strange.
checking up on them voyeuristically months and even years after attacking their children.
I want us to be locked
Dude.
up. I never want us to come out again. Because what she's done
She stalked them on
has changed the
Facebook.
course of our life forever.
Lucy Letby had many faces. Party girl, graduate, bright young nurse. But each
Yeah, she doesn't
face
look
was a
like a serial
mask
killer.
for evil hiding in
She
plain
does not look
sight.
like a serial killer
And
at all.
at last her cover has slipped. Lucy Letby will now be known as one of Britain's most notorious criminals.
Let her
Judith
be
Morris,
in
BBC
prison
News,
and they
Manchester.
will... They will handle her,
Lucy
bro.
Letby has today been convicted of 7 murders, but the BBC has learned that there were actually 13 deaths on the neonatal unit where she worked in a 1-year period. That is 5 times the usual rate, and the nurse was
Yeah,
on
that
duty
is-
for all of them. As Judith was reporting there, doctors on the unit were raising concerns for months about Letby, but senior managers ignored their warnings and protected her. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has this exclusive report.
Sue the fuck out of those people, send them to jail.
NHS trust that didn't properly investigate why 13 babies died unexpectedly in a 1-year period.
No,
Instead,
that's
it turned against the very people who wanted the police to examine the deaths.
There is only one serial killer of babies that's worked in that organisation, and the executive team were not the people who were responsible for the deaths of those babies.
No, but they kind of were.
They some opportunities
they helped her
to get to the bottom of
but
what
they
was
kind
happening.
of were.
Susan Gilby joined the plaintiffs of...
Dog, yo, nah. In my world, you allow this shit to happen. You don't investigate on purpose. Because you don't want the bad press, you don't want this, and you don't care about the children. Right? If you don't care about the children, why the fuck are you a hospital? Why the fuck are you delivering babies then, if you don't care about the children? So if you don't care about the children, dude, go right ahead to jail. Go right ahead to jail, and you get sued too. You get sued, and you go to jail for a couple of years for neglect. Like working neglect or something. We make a new law. You can't be doing this shit. You can't be allowing these people to get away. Dude, like I said, 5 times the average is... It's literally an anomaly. It doesn't happen. 3 times the average is massive. In any statistics class, they will tell you like 3 times is outlier. Outlier. 3 times the standard deviation is an outlier. Like, let's say average height is 180 to 170, right? So you got a 10 centimeter average. Anyone 30 centimeters above that is an outlier. So that's a 210 individual. Any 30 centimeters below that is also an outlier. That's a 140 individual. Like it's a 0.001% or some bullshit like that.
NHS Trust as medical director a month after Lucy Letby was arrested.
And I bet you anything
she was made chief executive.
That this woman was 0.0001 out of all nurses.
She learned what the trust knew about the serial killer. The first 3 babies died in June 2015. The executive team held a meeting at which it was agreed that an external investigation into the deaths would be held. It never happened. By October, with 7 babies now dead, a staff analysis of the incidents made a link between all the deaths and Lucy Letby being on shift, but it was still seen as coincidental. In February 2016, with 10 babies now dead, the director of nursing, Alison Kelly, and Ian Harvey, the medical director, were asked for an urgent meeting to discuss the deaths and Lucy Letby's links to all of them.
She started killing more kids
for 3 months.
The paediatricians were discussing, the terrible nights on call that they were having. One of them said, every time this is happening to me.
It's Lucy.
That I'm being called in for these catastrophic events, which were unexpected and unexplained. Lucy Letby is there. And then somebody else said, yes, I found that. And then someone else had the same response. And they
she didn't want to get caught, but
realised that...
No, but the thing is they get confidence.
Was Letby.
She didn't want to get caught, but they get confidence. Or maybe she did want to get caught, but usually they gain confidence and confidence and confidence, and it's like, I'm not getting caught, I'm not getting caught, I'm never going to get caught. And then the hubris takes them down.
His presence on the unit.
In June 2016, 2 babies died on consecutive days. 13 children had now died. Lucy Letby was on shift for all of them.
That one is ridiculous,
The day
bro.
after the second death,
2 kids, 1 night is ridiculous.
The unit. Paediatrician Steve Breary rang the duty manager asking for Letby to be replaced. The manager refused.
I challenged her. I said, well, are you saying that you're making this decision against the wishes of 7 consultant paediatricians?
Jesus Christ.
And she said yes. And I
said,
said,
you need to be fired.
If you're making this decision,
I'm
are you taking responsibility for anything that might happen tomorrow to any other of our babies? And she said yes.
Letby went to work and a baby unexpectedly collapsed.
We were urging them to investigate our concerns appropriately, and most of us felt the most appropriate way to do that would be to go to the police.
The response from the medical director was unsupportive. Yes. In an email to the paediatricians obtained by Panorama, Ian Harvey wrote, "Action is being taken.
Unfortunately, they took too long.
Forthwith." The police were not called. Instead, in
No.
September 2016, the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health was asked to carry out a review.
Yo, like, dude, if you guys don't have a statistician and if people aren't doing shit to this, you need to personally grab all the files you can. You go to the cops and you say, hey, listen, this is what's happening in this hospital. They don't want to talk about it. I am a doctor there. I don't want to lose my job, but it is what it is. I don't want these people to fucking die. And then you fucking show them, please investigate. This person is killing kids. And the hospital is allowing them to. They will listen. They will listen. They will listen. No, you don't even need a private investigator. You go to the cops.
View of the neonatal unit, it urged the trust to investigate each death individually. This didn't happen. Around this time, Lucy Letby launched a grievance procedure against the paediatricians.
They let her be, bro.
Process concluded
I'm telling you, man, it's all written in the stars, man.
Victimized by the doctors.
They literally let
with the paediatricians wanting a police investigation in January 2017, an extraordinary board meeting was held. The medical director, Ian Harvey, gave a verbal report. He said external reviews had not highlighted any individual as being linked to the deaths, and that the trust was ready to draw a line under the issues. The chief executive, Tony Chambers, said he'd met Lucy Letby and her parents to apologise for what had happened. A statement written by Letby was read out, detailing how hard the past few months had been for her. The meeting decided Lucy Letby would return to the neonatal unit after the paediatricians had written a letter apologising
you guys need to go to jail. Oh, they need to go to jail.
This is the letter they sent
the paediatricians apologised to Letby.
Paediatric consultants in the unit. Against their wishes, they apologised for any inappropriate comments that may have been made.
Dear Lucy,
going on to say,
the increased mortality on the neonatal unit and subsequent reviews and redesign of the neonatal have been very stressful time for all staff and parents. We understand that it has been an exceptionally stressful time for you. We would like to apologize for any inappropriate comments. They made them apologize to a serial killer. Yeah, these guys need to go to jail, bro. Imagine how turned on this person must have been that she was actually killing babies and she was being apologized to for people thinking that she was killing babies. This bitch was jerking herself off at night.
We are very sorry for the stress and upset that you have experienced in the last year. Though the paediatricians feared being reported to the regulator, they kept going, pressurising executives to call the police, something the trust eventually did.
Just call the police yourself!
The reputation of the organisation and protecting
that reputation is lost now.
Was a big factor.
I don't give a fuck. Your reputation is lost now.
Responded to the concerns raised.
It's over now.
Dragged, kicking and screaming, the executive team to call in the police.
Over
that
now.
Would certainly be the conclusion that I would reach.
At the time Letby was arrested in July 2018, she was still working at the trust. No disciplinary action had been taken against her.
The strong opinion was that there would be...
If I'm a parent of one of these children, bro, I'm suing the hospital, I'm suing her, and I'm suing the directors too. I'm suing everybody, dude. I'm suing everybody. Everybody's gonna get it, dude. Everybody's gonna fucking get it. Because in my eyes, they allowed her to kill. They gave her children to kill. They were sacrificing children. Literally, bro. At this point, if somebody said that these people were in a demonic cult that was sacrificing children, I would believe them. What else am I going to say? No, they're not in a cult that sacrifices. Yeah, of course they are, bro. Children are dying. People tell them children are dying. And you know what they did? Give her more children. You are in a cult. You are in a cult, 100%. I can't blame anybody for thinking that you guys are a death cult.
Nothing found.
No, at least cut her hours. At least she can't be alone in a room with one of these children. At least. At the very least, you gotta have a supervisor. At the very least. But that's the bare minimum. And even if you do that, I still think you go to jail.
There was a brief overlap of 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, they judge the Aztecs, but when they do it, it's okay.
And his parting words to me, to my surprise, were, "You need to refer the paediatricians to the GMC."
The former medical director denies threatening to report the doctors to the General Medical Council for misconduct. In a statement, Tony Chambers, the former chief executive, said, "All my thoughts are with the children at the heart of this case and their families and loved ones. As chief executive, my focus was on the safety of the baby unit and the well-being of patients and staff. The trial has shown the complex nature of the issues raised. There are always lessons to be learned."
Always
the former medical director, Ian Harvey, said, "My thoughts are with the babies whose treatment has been the focus of the trial and their parents. As medical director, I was..."
Yeah, I'll tell you the truth. If their thoughts were with the babies and they didn't do anything about it, okay. Send yourself to prison. Hand yourself over to prison. Do 5 years. If I was in charge of kids like this and kids died because of my stupidity, I would willingly go to jail. I would willingly go to prison to show my honest regret. My honest regret. And if you don't do that, you're not being honest. Because that's what a true good person does. If you fuck up this badly, you don't get to say, "Thoughts and prayers for the children and family, by the way." No, you don't get to say that. You don't. You do time. It's the right thing.
Was determined to keep
How
the baby
dare them
unit
even
safe
say
and support
this?
our staff. I wanted the reviews and investigations carried out so we could tell the parents what had happened to their child.
Chatting shit.
Both men said they'd cooperate with the upcoming inquiry. Michael Buchanan, BBC
Oh
News,
yeah, now you
Cheshire.
cooperate. Yeah, now you cooperate, bro. Now you cooperate. 6 fucking years later, now they cooperate, bro. 6 years later. No, you need to go to jail, bro. You honestly, you need to go to jail. 5 years. Like, legitimately, at least. And then I'll say, you know what? They made a stupid mistake. They should have known better, but at least they were man enough to pay for their mistakes. These are not men. You're not man enough to pay for your mistakes. You're not men. You're liars. And you were scared that people were going to come after the hospital and you fucking sacrificed children for the hospital. Go fuck yourselves. You're not men. You are not men. You're not men and you are not sorry. A bunch of lying pieces of shit. Holy fuck, bro.
Brought you the details behind.
I don't understand how the trial can go for 9 months. How is the trial gonna go on for 9 months when it's pretty fucking clear this woman killed the children and it's pretty clear that these people defended her? This ain't a 9-month thing. This ain't a 9-month thing, bro. Like, there's no back and forth here. Oh, well, the child actually died. I actually tried to save him, but he succumbed.
The headlines, allowing you to be part of each moment of the trial. The podcast was groundbreaking because it was the first time in the UK that a podcast had covered a live trial week by week.
You listened in your millions, and now we're going to bring you the inside story of what happened during the trial and how the
bring
jury
us inside
reached their
story,
verdict.
please.
This is the trial of Lucy Letby, the inside story.
She needs to fucking get hanged. She needs to get hanged.
This story starts back in 2015.
If it, you know what would have been... Okay, listen. This might have been a little satanic. If this kept going, it would have been more cinematic, but it would have been more satanic. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because it's what she was doing. Mom, I love you. Have a good night. Yeah, like, I don't know. If I was them, I think I would have done the same, bro. Yeah, if they did, it would have been like.
This story starts back in 2015. Back then, David Cameron was Prime Minister, Facebook got 1 billion users, NASA found water on Mars, and almost 700,000 babies were born in the UK.
Pogo.
3,000 of them
Love you, Mum.
were born at the Countess of Chester Hospital in the northwest of England. But over the next 12 months, from June 2015 to
3,000 babies, so
it
3 kids a day?
apparent something unthinkable might be happening.
8 kids a day?
Doctors noticed that there was a sudden spike in deaths and near deaths on the neonatal unit, where premature and poorly babies are cared for.
Oh.
So they started to investigate.
They're literally the weakest of
When
the
they
weak.
failed to find a medical reason, police were eventually called in.
They're the
and after an
weakest of the weak.
investigation lasting for more than a year, they arrested a young Band 5 nurse who had worked at the hospital
What's
for
Band
several
5?
years.
What's Band 5?
In November 2020, Lucy Letby was charged with the murder and attempted murder of 17 babies.
And after deliberating for 22 days,
17.
the jury found Lucy Letby guilty
22
of
days.
the murder of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 more at the Countess of Chester Hospital in
22
Cheshire.
days.
She will go down as the most prolific child killer in British history.
So it's not just modern.
So Liz, from the minute we
She's the most
started
prolific
on
child
this
killer.
podcast, which was back in October last
Ban
year,
on.
we had the
Since we
whole
know of.
stories of every baby.
So it's not modern, just history, right? It's not the
mums,
past
dads,
100, it's
the cousins, the aunties, the uncles, the brothers and the sisters.
thousands of years.
Because we knew we had to do this right. They thought their child had died or been hurt or been poorly because of natural reasons, natural causes. And the first they knew that this was something much more sinister was, for some of them, 5 years on, when they got a knock on the door from Cheshire Police.
Yeah,
Can't imagine.
you can't imagine, really horrendous. And then a lot of them obviously had to give statements to the police, and some of them came to court themselves to give evidence and had to listen to the most awful details about what happened to their child.
A nurse came up and asked whether I wanted someone to call a priest. I remember feeling quite shocked, and I asked if she thought he was going to die. She responded, "Yes, I think so."
When we got there, she was in intensive care with all the machines. It was such a shock. She looked like she was going to die.
Our daughter could go from perfectly fine to nearly dying in seconds. There was no in between. Our daughter seemed to deteriorate when we left her alone, and predominantly at night.
I was praying to my God to see my boy and help him. I was asking my God to save him. My husband was not saying anything, but he was crying and crying.
We made the decision
this
to
person might
switch
be
off the
Muslim.
machines and let her go.
My God, I
It
think
was by
that
far
person
the
was
hardest
Muslim.
decision of my life. Our daughter was in my husband's arms when she took her last breath
Sikh,
and
maybe?
silently
No.
passed away.
I don't think she was Christian.
That audio is so hard to listen
My
to.
God,
because
they would have said
were
God.
The actual words of
No, I don't
the
think they're
parents
Muslim or
who
Christian.
Gave evidence to this court, either in person, just 2 of them did, or in statements. And for
Who
the
would
podcast,
say, "My God"?
As you know, Liz, we got them voiced up by
Instead of
actors
God.
because one of the things we wanted to do on the podcast was to take our listeners into that courtroom to try to put them where we were.
And to kind of put across the emotion of it being in there. You know, some of these, I'm a mum, you know, some of these mums had to get up there and describe what they'd seen and what had happened to their child. And obviously Lucy Letby is in the room.
Hey, she
She's
looks
in the
like a
room as
fucking
well.
monster.
A courtroom is quite a scary place as well. You know, if you're not used to being in a courtroom, they're austere places.
I mean, the other thing as well is that this was the first time these parents knew what Lucy Letby had allegedly done to the other children
Jesus
in this
fucking
trial.
Yeah, they couldn't draw the dots until they were actually there and watching, and you know that
Did
moment.
you say why she did it?
realisation
She had notes.
You know, the full extent of the case.
I'm
must have been
evil. I don't
horrendous.
deserve.
So, Liz, from the moment
this,
the jury was sworn in, that's the jury of 8 women and 4 men for this case, which
I
was
think
in
she's
October
a full-on
last year.
psychopath.
They were told it was going to be a long trial. I think they were told it was going to be probably 6 months. They didn't know they were going to give up probably the best part of a year of their lives. But they were also told it was going to be complex. And
she had notes and shit in her apartment.
I mean, I've got the figures. We're talking about 5,000.
But I don't think
500 police
she was a skit, so I don't think she had voices or anything like that. She was like, see, I hate them. Look at this, look at this, look at this.
13,000 pages of audio transcripts.
13,000
and
pages.
all that related to Lucy Letby, who faced 22 charges relating to 17 babies.
Yeah, but actually, Caroline, nobody will ever know the identities of these babies.
Have you heard of Amaru?
Should be at
Tupac
the centre.
Amaru?
They were at the centre of
Yeah, I have.
And that's because of the
Course
strict
I have.
reporting restrictions that were on the case to protect their identities.
The
and
original
identities of
Tupac,
their
bro.
families.
So we would call them Baby A to Q.
Yeah, that's right.
What we do know is...
you didn't know I knew that, did you?
The way that she attacked the babies.
You didn't know I knew that.
Operandi. We know how she attacked them. We'll never
I've
know
heard of
why
him.
she attacked them. She had a number of techniques. She used insulin to poison.
Insulin.
She also tried to smother. One child had a really serious, violent liver injury, but she had one particular method.
Well, the prosecution said that her favourite method of killing and harming these babies was injecting them with air. And
their heart
an
stopped.
air bubble or an air embolus in their bloodstream, which blocked
Yeah.
the blood flow and essentially killed them that way. Now, we don't really know what triggered this kind of killing spree that she went on, but we do know that she went on a course which taught her how to deal with long lines and injecting medicine into certain cannulas, and there are prosecution speculating that maybe...
And they tell you how not to inject because you might kill somebody. And so you just do that, basically, right? Insulin, that's smart as fuck. No. No, because insulin leaves, like, the kid goes into, the kid ends up having no sugar in the bloodstream and goes into a coma with insulin, I'm pretty sure. Right? Yeah, the kid goes into a coma because of no sugar in the bloodstream, and they just never wake up. So I'm pretty sure it's easy to tell if somebody was injected with insulin. And then also if the baby has a heart attack, like a pulmonary whatever the fuck with the thing, it's also easier to tell.
That was what taught her.
But like these are children that were, you know, premature, so they usually have some issues. But
about air embolus,
insulin,
and that's when she went on to kill baby A a couple of
not
weeks
very
later.
normal.
2 weeks before the death of baby A, Lucy Letby completed a course relating to intravenous lines, and on the course, the dangers of air embolus were mentioned. Is that just a coincidence, or is that what gave her the idea? We will never know. We say Lucy Letby killed baby A with an injection of air into the bloodstream. When he collapsed, she was standing over him. She tried the same thing with his sister the following night, but miraculously she survived.
Oof. She's a monster,
So
dude.
D was another child that was injected with air. She was the third baby to die in a fortnight in June 2015, and she was actually the only baby in the case that was full term. She wasn't premature, and the reason she was there
That is too
was
much of
because
an
her
announcement to say,
mum
but it
had
can't
a
really be.
really long and difficult labour. She'd been in labour
Oh,
for 16
am I
weeks,
still a virgin?
and
Yeah.
the doctors thought that she had an
Course.
infection when she was born because she was having
Can't trust these
problems
bitches.
breathing. So that's the reason she was in the neonatal unit.
Yeah, because it catered mainly for premature babies. She shouldn't have been there.
Well, you thought I would have switched up?
And actually, you'll remember this really well from court, Liz, that her mum was the first parent to give evidence
against her. Yeah.
But one of the key things she told the court was that Lucy Letby was sort of what she called hovering around baby Dee's cot at one point, making her and her husband feel pretty uncomfortable. Nurses did go and get her parents.
Millie's waiting till it's grey in the hair, bro.
That their daughter
My brother told me I have one grey hair, and I'm like, huh?
A few hours earlier, but the next
What do you
thing
mean my
they were
dick's
woken
gonna
up
stop
in the middle
working
of the
before I get
night
it in?
by a nurse in a panic. Baby Dee's mother explained what happened next to the court.
I'm not in a
Her words
rush.
have been voiced here by an actor.
I should be though.
She just said our daughter was very poorly and you need to come down. We were fast asleep.
Nah, I'm
so we
focusing
didn't
on
really
different
know what
things,
was
bro,
going
than women. Never
on.
focused
The
on
nurse
women.
helped me get into the wheelchair and we rushed.
You guys sell their virginity. If I grow on Twitch,
He was trying.
I should not. If when I grow on Twitch,
standing there looking
we'll just sell it. How about that, boys?
Someone was holding a phone to his ear. He was quite agitated.
The eagle who rates me the most can get it.
Had to let her go.
How about that?
He had to stop. She tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You've got to let her go."
Oh
he
my
stopped
God.
massaging her and pronounced the time of her death, and I couldn't stay in the room anymore, so I asked my husband to take me away.
And she was actually attacked 3 times during that night shift. And the allegation was that Lucy Letby pumped air into her bloodstream 3 times.
Because some
And
goal
during
based.
the final attempts to save her life, when the doctor sadly couldn't resuscitate her, they noticed this strange discoloration on her abdomen and on her tummy. And this rash, this kind of purpley, blotchy rash, became quite a feature of the case.
Well, and actually, a lot of the doctors and nurses didn't know what it was. They'd never seen something like that before.
Yeah.
The sort of flitting, they called it, flitting rash that sort of moved and came and went. And they didn't know, what was
She was
causing
like
it, and they didn't know
rubbing
why
them
it
or
was
something?
affecting, well, this baby, but then as it turned out,
more babies.
More babies. So baby E's mum also gave evidence in person to the court, didn't she? And again, a sort of traumatic moment in the courtroom. But what happened in her case was that she was never meant to be at the Countess. She was meant to have her twins at Liverpool Women's because there was a condition that had been diagnosed and they were better there. But when she went into labour, there were no beds. So she and her husband drove the 30 miles to the Countess of Chester to have the twins there. And the reason we're choosing this as a key moment in the podcast was because this was one of the moments that Lucy Letby was interrupted attacking one of the twins.
And on this evening, it was a couple of days after the boys had been born, and their mother was on her own actually in the hospital.
And nobody did
recovering from
anything?
cesarean, and her husband.
She
had
was
gone
interrupted
home
and nobody did
because
anything?
it was anticipated that the boys were going to go or be transferred to a hospital nearer their home to be cared for.
Because they were doing well.
Because they were doing well.
Yeah.
And so in the evening of the 3rd of August, she'd been down to see them in the neonatal unit. She'd changed their nappy. She'd done what's called their cares. So she'd kind of wiped their eyes and their neck. And then a couple of hours later, around 9 o'clock
Tried to kill them again.
she went to deliver some breast milk. And that's when she arrived on the neonatal unit and described hearing her son screaming, an horrendous scream it was described as. And that's when the prosecution said she actually interrupted Lucy Letby mid-attack.
Oh my God, dude.
I could hear my son crying, and it was like nothing I had heard before. I walked over to the incubator to see blood coming out of his mouth, and I panicked.
Oh, dude.
I was panicking because I felt like there was something wrong.
Well, yeah, no shit, bro. The kid's screaming bloody murder.
No, there was a workstation, and she was at the workstation.
Just describe what you could hear.
I could hear crying.
How did nobody see
It was a sound that
this?
should not have come from a tiny baby. It was horrendous. It was more of a scream.
How did nobody hear this? How did nobody see? What the fuck, bro? This actually had to be a cult for sacrificing children. There's no way she would have done this by herself 100%. But you guys can't hear the kid scream. Like, you guys can't put 2 and 2 together.
I'm gonna cry.
How long before you walked into the room could you hear that?
I could hear it in the little corridor.
What was Lucy
In the
doing
corridor?
as you walked in, hearing what you could hear?
At what
She
time?
was busy doing something, but she wasn't near my son.
At what time?
And when baby Eve's
Like,
mum
were there other people
went into
around?
the room to the cot to see
There's
him,
no way there
I
weren't
think
other
the
people
Lord
around.
Jesus
It's a
Christ,
hospital,
she
bro.
was
There's
really
always
worried.
people.
But she went back to the ward because Lucy Letby told her to. But later, when he collapsed and doctors were trying to save him, this bleeding got worse and worse.
Yeah, and one of the doctors also noticed that he had a rash on his body. And
Yeah, the
he
same
remembered
fucking
that this
rash.
was like the one that he'd seen on baby A.
The same rash.
And sadly, they worked on him for almost 50 minutes. And the doctors just couldn't save him, and he died in the early hours.
50 minutes of CPR on a tiny baby.
And obviously his parents were called in, and they
Yeah, they
watched a
broke
lot
his
of that
ribs.
process, and sadly had to watch him slip away.
Oof.
But we come back to the rash again that keeps coming up in this trial.
Yeah, what's that rash?
Still at this point, the doctors and nurses were noticing it, but didn't know why it was there, didn't know what it meant, didn't know really that it was significant. But then
What's this
there's
rash?
a moment, isn't there, again, which is why we've picked this out from the podcast, because it was a bit of a turning point, really.
She hit
in
them?
The doctors and
No.
nurses wondering what was going on. So one of the doctors
From
in
the
this case, a
insulin?
doctor called Ravi Jairam, he was a consultant. He started to research this rash.
Not too much later on, but yeah.
A lot later on, but he then realised that this rash could be a consequence, a sign of an air embolus.
Dr. Jarian said he didn't realise the clinical significance of the rash until months later, after more babies had died, and it had been present in others who collapsed. He said the
Injected
research paper, which the jury heard is well known among paediatricians, examined the effect of air embolus, that's air in the circulation of newborns, and it described almost exactly the rash and the skin discoloration that was seen on the body of
They
baby
were
A.
injected with it.
I remember sitting on my sofa at home with the iPad, and I remember reading that description and the physical chill that went down my spine because it fitted with what we were seeing.
So it was at this point, after the deaths of baby D and baby E, that
How do you research air embolus in babies without injecting babies with air to produce embolus? Anyone gonna answer me, bro? Air embolus. How does it happen? How does air embolism occur? Gas is admitted. Yeah, but normally it can occur iatrogenically, what, via interventional procedures. Blunt and penetrating trauma to diving and childbirth. Oh, so just childbirth itself can have an air embolism happen. It can happen. Scuba divers. Let me see. How does this happen without injecting a kid? That's what I want to know. Because, like, if it only happens with injections, then you know somebody's injecting these kids. Air can be introduced, surgical procedures, and that newborns, right? Barotrauma decompression, this is divers. And Flora. I don't give a fuck about Flora. Divers. Causes. Interventional radiology procedures and procedures can predispose to air embolism. They use pump injectors for contrast delivery and percutaneous interventions to the lungs. Decompression, this is all divers, bro. Ventilator-induced pulmonary barotrauma. COVID-19 shit. Dive shit. Direct injection. So pretty much unless you're diving, somebody's gonna inject you with it. Or you gotta go through a surgery. Not all children that are born premature have any surgery. Sometimes they just get placed under lamps that heat them up and shit.
It started to look.
They should have known, dude.
Because
they should have known.
It just didn't feel right. These babies.
Like they should have. They should have known.
Dying. They were collapsing.
It's not acceptable.
Unexpectedly. They were meant to be going home. They were meant to be getting better. And Dr. Ravi Jairam started to look at it, along with another doctor called Stephen Breary.
They needed to. They had to have known.
Look at what was going on.
And they noticed, which is the key thing, that Lucy Letby was on duty every single time one of these babies collapsed or died. And at the beginning,
Britain needs to bring back hangings, public hangings. She needs to be publicly hanged, drawn and quartered. Like, honestly, this has to be a public hanging, a drawn, and a quartering. That's the only thing, bro, that I will allow. Life sentence ain't enough for me. You guys know what drawn and quartering is? It's a thing they used to do back in England. They did it to the Scottish guy, where they draw your intestines out and then they cut you into 4 pieces. That's what needs to happen to this woman. It's the only fate that fits what she did. Life in prison ain't enough. I want more. I want more. Like I want more.
They just noted it down.
I prefer public intercourse via horses.
Because they couldn't believe that a nurse would do what they called the unthinkable and attack babies. And it wasn't until a few months later that they actually went to the hospital managers and said, "We think there's something about this nurse being on duty every single time."
And Dr. Jairam told the court that the circumstances of baby Kay's collapse prompted he and Dr. Breary to raise their concerns a second time to hospital managers. This time, the court heard, they took their concerns to the medical director as well.
Dr. Jairam told the court that Dr. Breary even asked for a meeting between the consultants and hospital managers to discuss their concerns. But they were ignored and the pair faced pressure not to make a fuss, Dr. Jairam said.
No one came back to the consultants for another 3 months, Dr. Jairam claimed. And he told jurors that, in hindsight, he wished he'd bypassed official channels and gone straight to the police himself.
In court, Mr. Myers suggested it was difficult to
they should have gone to the cops.
If Dr. Jairam had witnessed what he said he had with baby Kay and really suspected someone was harming babies on his unit, that he hadn't done precisely that. Their robust exchange in court, which starts with Mr. Myers, has been voiced by actors.
You have a duty to look after children on your unit. If you think someone is deliberately harming them, you do your best to protect them. I did my best by raising concerns to senior executive level medical.
Amity, what the fuck? Huh? I ain't the baby dealer, bro.
Concerns were first raised by my colleague Dr. Breary. In February, we raised them again.
Lucy Letby continued to work on this department for another 4 months or so?
In retrospect, I wish we had bypassed them and gone straight to the police. We by no means were playing judge and jury at any point, but the association was becoming clearer and clearer.
Yeah,
we
it's
were
way
in
too
an
many
unprecedented
babies.
situation. No one trains us for this. We were not thinking, could this be deliberate harm?
So obviously,
Bro,
back in June, July 20...
I'm telling you, nobody trains them for this. This is why they needed a statistician. The guy, okay, autistic, just looks at the numbers, sees, boom, a shit ton of kids are dying. Yo, this nurse A has been there all the time. This is not normal. This person's doing something. Like, there's something going on right here. Investigate that. That's why they needed that. Like this, like, but Lucy, no, she seems like a nice woman. She would never do that. Oh no, this type of shit is cringe. You can't go by that, bro. You go by the numbers.
Dr. J. Ram and Dr. Breary were having conversations. This association had been made because Lucy Letby said
Bro,
she'd
look,
always be there.
Look at this, dude. One suspicious thing. Two, let's see, 1, 2, 5, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7 seems to be the max. The maximum seems to be 7. She is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, dude. Dude, X, look at this. X indicates on-duty presence on the shift where a suspicious event has been identified. The average is 7. Her average is 20, like hers is 25. I mean, no, the average is not 7. The average is like 4, 5. She's literally 5 times that. How did they not see this happening sooner? This is just ridiculous, dude. This is ridiculous.
These unexpected moments.
Absolutely
ridiculous. When David was collapsing and dying. But then it was October the same year when these concerns started to escalate. And other doctors were getting involved in these conversations, wasn't it?
I was counting.
Said basically that they were talking to their.
Listen, I'm a streamer, bro. Okay, I need to kill time.
Case, but it was
okay.
A key.
Everybody kills something. She killed the babies because she's a serial killer. I'm a streamer. I kill time, bro.
Part of Lucy Letby's defense because she said in court.
I'm a killer just like her, bro.
These consultants, in particular, the gang of 4.
We're all killers.
Terms in court. Had it in for her essentially, and were trying to blame her for the failings at the hospital, for mistakes that were made, and for the baby's deaths.
And actually, when she gave evidence later in the trial, that was the accusation she made to Nick Johnson, the prosecutor. She named 4 consultants: Dr. J. Ram, Dr. Stephen Breary, Dr. John Gibbs, and Dr. B.
It's everybody else's
fault.
We
haven't been able to
not
name
hers.
as being out to get her. She said the 4 were involved in a conspiracy to blame her for the baby's deaths.
Yeah.
You may also remember that she told the jury that when she'd written the word bastards on another of the notes, she was referring to Dr. Breary and Dr. J. Ram because she was angry that they pointed the finger at her.
Bro, she literally wrote, I killed them, I am evil. She wrote, I killed them, I am evil, I do not deserve to live, and then said, they set me up, officer. They wrote in my handwriting, officer.
In the consultants group, I do believe, yes.
4 doctors. A gang of 4, let's call them.
A gang.
What's the conspiracy?
They have apportioned blame onto me.
The motive?
I believe to cover failings at the hospital.
And it was pointed out in court that actually the consultants did everything they could really to
You know
find
what?
a medical reason, a medical explanation for
I
what was
agree
going
with her.
on. because
the hospital
nobody
did fuck up
really wanted to believe
by
that
even
one of
hiring
their
that hoe.
was attacking babies and doing what they said was the unthinkable.
Yeah, and in fact, it was so unthinkable that Dr. Stephen Breary actually
So
said,
this ain't possible.
Not Lucy, not nice Lucy, when this was suggested to him.
Because nobody wanted to believe it.
So the other reason
That's
that
why
he
you
was
need
told
an
by the
autistic
prosecutor
statistician.
that this allegation that the Gang of Four were out to get her was fanciful, according to the prosecutor.
Bro, that's fucking pearly things.
That the court was told by
She
the
got
police
away,
Lucy,
bro.
not
What the fuck? It's just pearly things got away. I knew she was evil.
Nice Lucy when this was suggested to him.
Because nobody wanted to believe it.
You're right.
The other
there we go.
reason that the court was told by the prosecutor that this allegation that the Gang of Four were
The
out
gang.
to get her was fanciful, according to the prosecutor, Nick Johnson, was because
What a
these
fucking
four
cunt.
experienced consultants had ignored the key medical evidence in this case, which was the insulin, Liz.
Yeah, so when they went to the managers, they didn't actually know that 2 of the babies on the unit had already been poisoned. And Mr. Johnson pointed that out, saying, you know, it was amazing that they'd missed essentially the best bit of evidence against her. And it was only years later, when the police got involved and started investigating, that they actually unearthed these 2 blood samples that were taken 8 months apart,
Kids.
baby boys from 2 separate sets of twins that
Yeah,
were poisoned
'cause you can
8 months
tell, dude, you
apart,
can tell.
and the insulin was found to be in these blood samples, and it had to be insulin that was manufactured. It couldn't have been produced by the
Yeah, you can tell if it's insulin produced by pigs, I think.
It was given to them to cause harm.
Do you agree that Baby F
I think
was
it's pigs.
poisoned with insulin?
Yes.
Knowing what you know about insulin readings, blood sugar readings,
Yeah, there's no.
what other realistic possibilities?
And you
can
can
Baby
tell by
F
some
face?
I don't believe any member of the
way
unit would
that
make
it's
a
not
mistake.
human.
Mistake is not an option.
And it's exogenous.
Deliberate poisoning, but not you.
Insulin has been added by somebody, but not me.
So we know that attack on baby F came the day after his brother, baby E, was murdered. And that was a particularly moving moment in court, Liz. I remember the description of what happened there.
Yeah, so the manner of his attack was just horrendous. The way it was described in court, he was attacked by having what they think was a metal instrument shoved down his throat, which triggered this bleeding. And as they desperately tried to resuscitate him, he lost a quarter of the blood in his body. And, you know, obviously that one of the doctors that was present there was describing this moment and was clearly traumatized by what he saw.
Doctors began full CPR when his heart stopped beating.
The court heard Dr. Harkness led the resuscitation efforts alongside nurses Caroline Oakley, Lucy Letby and another colleague, Belinda Williamson. Jurors were told the resuscitation was distressing because baby E continued to bleed profusely from his nose and mouth while the medical team desperately tried to save him.
Over the course of the next 47 minutes, with his parents close by, the medical team gave baby E 5 doses of adrenaline to try and stimulate his heart.
Yes, and unusually,
5
like
doses,
in the case of
dude.
baby C, baby E's heartbeat returned momentarily, just
Yeah,
after
because
1
of the
a.m.
fucking adrenaline.
But by then he had been without oxygen for around 15 minutes.
Oh,
and
brain
doctors soon
damage.
realised he was unlikely to survive.
Brain damage.
CPR was stopped at around 1:23 a.m. and baby E was given to his parents to cuddle as he passed away. He was formally pronounced dead at 1:40 a.m.
¿Estás buscando ofertas para tu próximo vuelo? Con Kayak puedes comparar cientos de sitios web de viajes para tus destinos favoritos.
Bro, I'm poor as shit.
Now, after he
How am I going to
died,
be traveling? I mean, I will go to the
the
Mexico
initial
City,
report
but
from the doctors was that he died from natural causes.
But
They
not gonna be travelling to
advised the
Italy, isn't it?
parents not to have a post-mortem, and
Why?
that was a wrong decision, really.
Well, it was a really terrible mistake, and initially the consultant thought that he'd got some kind of stomach bleed due to a kind of bowel condition that premature babies get. But that was later disproved by the medical experts.
Post-mortem,
So his decision not to have a post-mortem
you
meant
open them up, they
that
check
actually,
everything.
although they
What happened?
suspected that he'd been assaulted, like in the case of one of the triplets, Baby O, who had a terrible liver injury.
They suspected he'd been
They
assaulted.
couldn't actually prove that Baby E had been assaulted. And when the consultant gave evidence in court, it produced a really dramatic moment.
Yes, in court, the doctor turned to Baby E's parents, who were sitting in the public gallery behind her, and publicly
Bro, the
apologised.
hospital did it.
She said she regretted that decision, because obviously a post-mortem would have been very helpful in explaining exactly why Baby E died.
Yeah, and F, G, H, I, J, K, and LMNOP too, bro.
Cause of death, and why she thought the bowel condition was no longer to blame.
Yeah, she said she'd since examined the results of blood tests and x-rays taken in the run-up to his death.
It's not to
She
blame.
said his observations were very stable up until he collapsed, which didn't fit with what would have happened if he had had the bowel problem. She also said she'd failed to give
Because he
enough
got
weight
murdered.
to the x-ray, taken around an hour
Yeah, 'cause
before
he
his
got
death,
fucking
and had
murdered.
been normal.
So because there was no post-mortem for Baby E, the prosecution didn't really have the medical evidence to prove that he had been assaulted, even though...
Man, the issue is, not only was she a monster, but they allowed her to
But in the case of Baby O,
They
he
protected
was
her.
also, the prosecution said,
protected her.
viciously assaulted by Lucy Letby. It was a different matter because that was clear on the post-mortem records, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he had a post-mortem.
They really need to go, they have to go to jail. This is just not... You can't have 7 children die with a serial killer, or however many children died. You can't have so many doctors tell you, hey, this person's killing people. You can't have this and not do anything about it. As a man, if I did that, I have to hand myself in. I have to pay for my sins. I believe that. You resign. You go and hand yourself over to the jail for 5 years or whatever the fuck. If they won't take you without committing a crime, you go and you assault a bank. Hey, I'm gonna rob you, and then you stay there until the cops come, and you take however many years. And when they tell you, why were you robbing the bank? Well, you guys wouldn't take me for getting these kids killed, so I had to do something else. Like, that's what a person does. That's what a person who's truly repentful of what they did does. Because honestly, dude, if I was in that position and I knew that these kids had died, I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself. I'd have nightmares all the fucking time. I would need to pay for my sins, dude. I think most people would. And I think it's how you show people like you're truly remorseful. You hand yourself in, you know?
And the post-mortem results were looked at by the prosecution's expert, Dr. Andreas Marnaridis, who found a severe liver injury, which he said was akin really only to children he'd seen that suffered injuries in road traffic accidents.
And of course, Baby O
Car crash.
was a triplet. His brother was Baby P, and they were
Oh my
both
God,
murdered
dude.
by Lucy Letby.
Oh
within
my
hours,
God, dude.
actually, of her coming back onto the ward after she'd been on holiday to Ibiza. And in fact, what we also heard was that the prosecution say that she also planned to kill the third triplet.
They paid this bitch to go to Ibiza, and then this bitch came back from the party to kill kids.
From the transport team when they arrived to take Baby P. Sadly, he died, and they begged the doctors to take the surviving triplet out of the Countess to another hospital.
Yeah, I would have done the
This
same.
boy was a triplet.
In fact,
and he and
If they didn't let me, bro, I would have fucking shot them. Give me my kid back, bro, or it's your time.
His two
I'm not gonna
brothers
say
were
it.
identical
I'm
because
not.
they shared a placenta.
NGTA.
Now, while
I would never
triplets
do that.
themselves are rare, identical triplets conceived naturally like these baby boys were are even more unusual. So rare, in fact, it happens in just 1 in 200 million births.
Yeah.
The prosecution say Lucy Letby
And
didn't
then
just
this
murder
bitch
Baby O.
killed him.
She also killed his brother, Baby P.
Oof.
She's accused of injecting both boys with air into their tummies and bloodstreams, causing them to collapse and die.
Statement to the court, the triplets' mother described what she'd witnessed.
On June 23rd, a doctor came onto the ward.
Dude, honestly, she needs to be drawn and quartered. Like, she does. She has to. This is another level of evil. This is another level of evil, dude. Cut her up. Look, this is what you do. You grab this. You go. This is her. You go. Right? Then you onto a roller, and then you go, and the thing goes, and she goes, ah! They need to bring that back for this bitch. Like, honestly.
His stomach had swollen.
No joke.
And he was needing help to breathe. So they
Without
in
GTA.
And lots of medical staff were rushing around.
I hate
I remember
pictures
the
things.
nurse Lucy was there all the time. The staff seemed to be in a state of panic. I just sat outside the nursery. I couldn't bring myself to go closer. My partner was closer to what was going on. Baby O kept arresting and he changed colour, which I saw later with Baby P. He was swollen all over his body. Another doctor called Steve arrived. I think he was one of the main doctors. He told me that things weren't looking good for Baby O.
Dude.
And if he did manage to survive, he would likely have brain damage.
Yeah.
So it might be best if he didn't survive.
Yeah.
This went on all afternoon, and eventually, Baby O passed away at about 5 p.m. This whole episode had come as a bolt out of the blue. On the face of it, everything seemed to be going so well for the triplets. It was never explained to us how this sudden downturn in Baby O's health happened. As a family,
Lucy
we were
fucking
naturally
B
devastated.
was there.
And it was actually during Baby P's
Lucy Letby was there.
when Lucy Letby...
By the way, I am Kenny Dumby, but I do not have any relations with that woman. I do not have any sexual relationships with that woman.
I was literally counting the minutes before they arrived. Staff nurse Letby said, "He's not leaving here alive, is he?" Which I found absolutely shocking at the time. I turned around and said, "Don't say that." All these years on, 7 years on, that memory is still very much alive in my mind.
Now, obviously, we know about that comment that was made. We know she liked the drama. We know she revelled in all of that drama. But what she also craved was the attention of a certain doctor who we call Dr. A because we couldn't name him during the trial. And he was described in court as her boyfriend, although she said they were just friends and that she loved him as a friend. But what we know is that he's married, but they texted long into the night on many occasions.
Yeah, so they went on trips to London together. He bought her chocolates. He let her use his car to get home. And actually, the first time that we saw any emotion from her was when he came to give evidence and stepped into the witness box for the first time. And she broke down in tears, and she actually tried to leave with it.
But as soon as he gave his name to the court, Lucy Letby became tearful and stood up from her seat. She appeared to try to leave the glass-panelled dock by the doors which leads to the cells.
The trial judge, Mr. Justice Goss, watched the drama unfold.
Bah, I gotta eat, buddy. I gotta eat, okay? Because I expended a lot of calories spending time with you-know-who. Say hi to Mama Bad for me, please. I'm coming soon.
And asked Lucy Letby's solicitor to just see what the problem is. She had a hushed conversation
Gotta get those calories in, bro.
With solicitor before composing herself, although she did continue to wipe her eyes with a tissue as the doctor started to give his evidence.
Don't tell me.
The jury was not given an explanation for her reaction, and the doctor was allowed to continue with his evidence.
But I thought you were gonna say that your mum's dead, and I was gonna be like, ah! But thank God she's not. Thank God she's not, because now I can actually come visit her. I still win. I'm coming over, bro.
You in love with him?
No, I loved Dr. A as.
You can kidnap me. Well, how about this? You can be my kid, and I can nap next to your mother. I'm too good with the words, buddy.
I wasn't in
You
love
can't.
with him.
One of the theories put
She wasn't in love with him.
that Lucy Letby attacked babies in order to get Dr. A into the room, to get his attention. Yes, we already knew that on a number of occasions when babies on the unit collapsed, it was Dr. A who was crash bleeped to attend. What Mr. Johnson has now alleged to the court is that Lucy Letby murdered and deliberately harmed some of the children in order to get Dr. A into the room.
Did you enjoy being in these crisis situations with Dr. A?
No.
Did it give you something to talk to him about and message him about?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it did.
Dr.
Yes,
A
it
and
did.
I were friends.
Something in common you could share?
No.
And it was after the deaths of Baby O and Baby P, which was in June 2016, that things came to a head. And because of what we heard in court, we called this episode The Tipping Point.
So we called it the tipping point because that's what one of the consultants said in his evidence. And by June 2016, they'd been repeatedly to the hospital managers to try and act to keep the babies safe, and nobody had done anything. And these two babies died and shouldn't have died, and they realised that something had to be done.
Yeah, to the
The jury
triplets.
have heard from some of the key consultants on the neonatal unit, who said they demanded that Lucy Letby be removed from the ward in June 2016.
They claim they went to hospital managers more than once as their suspicions grew, but on each occasion they claim their request was refused and their concerns
this is
were
insane.
ignored. Dr. Breary insisted he repeatedly tried to flag concerns through the correct channels at the hospital. Pressed about exactly why he didn't make a formal complaint or go to the police, Dr. Breary told Mr. Myers,
"You're making it more simplistic than it was. It was not something that anyone wanted to consider, that a member of staff was harming babies. Actually,
That's
senior
why you
nursing
need
staff
this
on the unit didn't
autistic
believe this
statistician.
up until the point and beyond when the triplets died. That year was spent with myself and colleagues with increasing
Bro.
suspicion after every episode. None of us wanted to believe it either. This all became very
Dude.
exceptional, and it took a step back to think about it.
That's why
The
you
nature of
need
these
that person
collapses,
there.
The unexpected nature of them, the lack of response to resuscitation, the unusual rash noted on a number of occasions, and each time the association with Nurse Letby.
And he told the court that once Lucy Letby was removed
You need
from
that
the unit,
autistic guy in
a
there.
few days after the triplets died,
You need
there were
him.
no more events.
It was the same staff doing the same job, and there were no sudden collapses.
So Lucy Letby was removed from the ward and allocated to what was called other duties after the death of the two boys. Dr.
And
John
nothing
Brooks
happens.
described their deaths as the tipping point.
How do you not know that? That's
After
her.
the deaths of the triplets, because concerns had reached a tipping point, safety measures
Oh.
were introduced, and one of the key safety measures which the consultants were insistent on was Lucy Letby be removed from the neonatal unit. That
Yeah.
was not a simple, straightforward decision.
What do you
A
mean
month
not?
later, senior managers wanted staff nurse Letby to come back on the unit, and we said that should only happen if CCTV was put in each room in the unit.
Finally, in July 2018, Lucy Letby was arrested. She was
How
arrested
do
in
you
a
not have
dawn
CCTV?
raid by police from Cheshire at her home in Chester, just a couple of miles from the hospital. And at that point, her house was searched, as was the home of her parents, who lived in Hereford.
I mean, probably because of child pornography, right? And shit. Like, if you got CCTV cameras in a thingy, like, you're kind of filming children. And that's kind of weird, bro. You know?
And in these police searches, they found what they described as a
Yeah, the
treasure
notes.
trove of information,
Notes.
medical documents, post-it notes, and pictures of cards on her phone that she'd written, And in Baby I's case,
oh, I am
found,
evil.
A condolence card that she actually sent to her parents on the day of her funeral.
There are no words to make this time any easier. It was a real privilege to care for Baby I and get to know you as a family. A family who always put Baby I first and did everything possible for her.
She's actually a monster.
She'll always be a part of your lives, and we will never forget her. Thinking of you today and always. Sorry I cannot be there to say goodbye.
Actual monster.
It's a weird thing to do, to take a picture of a card and keep it on your phone for years. Was there any clue why?
She just said that she did that routinely with cards that she sent to people because she wanted to remember what she'd written.
Because she sends a lot of cards.
There was another card on her phone, which was a thank you card that the parents of Baby E and Baby F had actually sent to all the nurses on the unit to say thank you when Baby F was well enough to go home. And that was also found on her phone.
And actually, these souvenirs, the police called them, or killing trophies, they didn't end there, did they?
Detective Constable Colin Johnson is an exhibits officer with Cheshire Police. Now, he was called to give evidence and took the jury through what police discovered at Lucy Letby's three-bedroom semi in the Blacon suburb of Chester.
One of the most dramatic moments so far in the court case has been a post-it note.
Kill myself.
Found at Lucy Letby's home.
I can't
during
breathe. Have to focus every day.
Why was this such a big moment in the case?
Yeah, this is a key moment, Caroline. The jury was shown the scribbled post-it notes on screens in the courtroom. It was found at her home in Chester. In the note, she describes herself as evil. The note also said, "I did this, I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough." She also wrote, "I will never have children or marry or know what it's like to have a family." But she also had written, "I haven't done anything wrong and I feel very alone and scared."
There are no words.
What does the future hold?
I am an awful person.
How can I get through it?
Every day for that. I can't breathe. I can't focus. Kill myself right now. Overwhelming fear, panic. I'll never have children or marry. I'll never know what it's like to have a family. No hope. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't deserve to live. I did this. Why me? I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough for them, and I'm a horrible, evil person. I don't deserve Mum and Dad. World is better off without me.
Yeah, it is.
So,
I agree.
I am evil, I did this. There's the confession, yeah?
Well, that's what the prosecution said. The defence said that it wasn't a confession. They said that it was written by Lucy Letby when she was moved off the unit, out of the job she'd said she loved, into the admin role, because she felt isolated, because she felt anxiety, she was upset. And they said it was the anguished outpourings of a woman who felt destroyed by losing her job.
But also, if all that's true, at this point, she knew she was being investigated by the police. They'd spoken to colleagues at the hospital, so they knew that word was getting back to her. Why keep them?
Well, that's the big question. The police actually think that she kept them on purpose, potentially for them to find. They can't work out why they would be in the house so many months after she knew that she was being investigated.
The yellow post-it note contained the first names of the triplets involved in the case, and underneath had been written, "Today is your birthday, but you aren't here, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm sorry you couldn't have the chance at life, and for the pain. I can't do this anymore." The court heard that police found the log, along with a blood test report for Baby M, in a plastic supermarket carrier bag under Lucy Letby's bed when they searched her home, close to the hospital.
She told detectives she must have forgotten to empty her pockets before leaving work and inadvertently taken the paper towel home. She said it may have been put to one side and forgotten about, but she denied keeping it as a reminder of an attack on Baby M.
A 6-year investigation, a court case lasting the best part of a year. Rafts and rafts of evidence, as we've seen, that implicate Lucy Letby in the murders and attempted murders of these babies. Strange, odd behaviour throughout this period. And yet, between 2015 and 2016, when all of this was going on, no one noticed that she was behaving oddly.
because she wasn't behaving oddly or strangely at work. She was a really competent nurse. You know, you've seen the pictures of her. She's, you know, she looks like the girl next door. There's nothing remarkable about her at all. She was a killer operating in plain sight.
She's mid.
After months and months and months of this trial, years and years of this investigation, what we do know is how these babies died and were harmed. We know where they died and were harmed.
And we know who.
We know when they died and were harmed. What we don't know, and more importantly, what their families, who
was it her or not?
As you've witnessed, have behaved with the most amazing bravery, courage, composure, utterly dignified through.
I wouldn't have been able to.
What they'll never
I'm
know,
too hot-headed.
we don't think is the why.
And also, Caroline, we won't actually know
I don't think that's
how
why.
many more, because we do know that the police are still investigating Lucy Letby, and we know that they are now going back to when she began her training, and she wasn't only just at the Countess.
Even before
she
began training.
Worked for periods of time at Liverpool Women's Hospital.
Oh my God, oh my God.
And so they are going to back to look at thousands of babies that pass through these neonatal units, and they haven't ruled out charges in the future, and that she will be back in court at a later date.
It's because, let's be real, every time there's a killer in a movie, every time there's an evil guy in a movie, he's ugly. He looks evil. He acts evil. But a lot of the time, evil people, you know, they can look like anything, bro. Like, for example, people think if you hate fat people, you're gonna be skinny, right? Then Lizzo comes out hating on the fat people. You know what I mean? If you hate women, people assume you're a man. Sometimes there's women haters that are women, you know? You know what I mean? It's much more simple to just say, looks like a killer, is a killer, than to say, doesn't look like it, doesn't act like it, but is. You know? Oof. Oof, bro. What an absolute monster. What a monster. Man goes nuts after not getting a kiss. Let me see.
Did you call? Yeah. No, he took off. I think they said it was like that long. Am I under arrest? Yes, you are.
Wait, what's that long?
This
His
is
dong?
the exact knife that was described to me.
The knife.
I've always known. 306, how? Now you're kicking me.
On November 24th, around 10 p.m., police arrested a Chanahan man for aggravated